hedonists, all of you. Yes, you. We have to remember that we as a human condition have made our society based on making the body feel like it's dirty or not good for wanting to express its natural urges. I'm just going to say wild for censorship purposes, but everybody was out here doing wild stuff. And I was sitting here reminiscing, laughing because I was thinking in my head, like, ooh, I used to do some wild things. Some wild things. But now I'm at that point where they talk about how everybody they go from being wild or, HEOE, and then they transfer over to being holy and sanctified. It's because your body has to get out of its system what it naturally would do when it's younger. Now, I'm not saying when you're young you're supposed to be fast, but what I'm saying is when you're younger, you're supposed to know how to love your body, appreciate your body, understand your body, how it works. Remember, when we're born, it's all sensory. And then once we get to a certain age of being able to physically move and understand the mechanics of the body, that's the relationship to the body, right? We go from being this little symbiotic thing that is relying on our parent like it's our host, because it is, right? We're a little parasite. And until we get enough nutrition and nutrients and we learn how to physically use and operate this machinery, we don't really have a relationship to it. We're fascinated by it, right? When babies, they see it and they touch it and they're in that state of qualia where they're like, yeah, I recognize myself, but I don't know what it is. And they're starting to conceptualize it. That's the same part of the body that gets shut off spiritually as kids when we're told we're supposed to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way. And inadvertently, when we get older and become adults, the first expression we want to do is what? Party, drink, coitus, lots of it if you get the opportunity. And sometimes people go to a point of oversaturation, which is they do it too much, and then we start to see the abuse and the addiction and the parts of the psychosis of the mind that feels it needs that thing to depend on its confidence, its love, its affection, whatever, right? Because that's what the mind does. The relationship to the body reminds us that we are the body. And we're supposed to understand that there's a level of usage that you do like a brand new car, right? When you get your new car, depending on what status you're at, you're going to drive and use that car until you get whatever use out of it you want to. And then it's just eventually one day it's just a regular old car. And remember that excitement of a brand new car? Because in that beginning, it's freedom, right? That's the same thing as the body. When we're in our parents' home and we have to do what they say, or we're in high school and we have to do what people say, or we're just in some type of authoritative place that is telling us who to be all the time, when we get some sense of freedom, we want to go out, right? We want to just go use it as much as we can. But then it gets to a point of preservation where you're like, okay, I was excited about this freedom, but now it's a convenience. It's something that I utilize and I appreciate it, but I don't think about it. That's what becomes of the human body, which is the vehicle to the soul. Do not forget that. So when I tell people about having the spiritual journey and awareness of, yeah, I am a spirit remembering and having experiences, but I am a body who's a storage for all these experiences and memories. Like, when people start shaking and they get scared and it's like people who you think are super confident and they can't control it. That's the body. That's not the mind. I know a lot of people say it's the mind, but I'm like, it's the body. The body's remembering, and then the body is feeding the mind with memories to say, we don't want to do this. Remember what happened last time? That is my perception. That's why I say some people give the mind too much power. So when you start to feel like, oh, these are my thoughts, I'm a dirty, dirty boy or a dirty, dirty girl. So what? I mean, literally, that's why we love other species. They're out there just doing it in front of us, living their life, and we're like, oh, because we have made everything something more than it needs to represent because of not being able to have the freedom to have connection to the body. Again, the body is not a dirty thing. I'm not saying, again, overuse it or abuse it because we all have the ability to do that. I've done it to mine. So you got to take it to the brink of death a few times just to say you did it. Listen, some of us live differently. I'm a little crazier. But now that I've done it, I'm back to homeostasis. And that's, you know, because I've gone to the self-preservation end of being so spiritual that I was celibate for years, almost 8 years. People are like, how do you do that? It's like you get to a point of not needing it. You don't think about it. You don't care. And I know some people are like, never me. That's fine. If that's who you are, that means you have such a close relationship to your body that your body now runs the show. And that is fine as long as you are aware spiritually that it's taking you down the path that you actually want to be on and not down the path of destruction that you want because of lust and other things that people romanticize and tell you that you want, right? This is why you have a whole subculture of red pill boys and girls who believe that they're only as good as how much they can get attention for their bodies, or and I mean in a distorted way. Not there's nothing wrong being confident in yourself and getting attention, but only getting things done for your body to get attention, right? That's the distortion. And then they romanticize how good they are in bed to trap this person. So that's where I say, if you want to take that path, that is one path, but that is what I call the juvenile path. That is what we all supposed to learn at a young age. Unfortunately, some people, because of childhood and how people oppress them to learn themselves and their body, they stopped at that age. And then when they got older, they just stopped at that age and never went back. And now they're grown thinking that they can't and they won't, and then they judge others for it. So it's that duality and perspective of you have to recognize that it's okay to be wild. Do what you want to do with this body. You're supposed to use it. But it's also remembering that you're going to get to a point where it's like, I've done enough though to it. Like now I want to live for my spirit. I want to live for the time after I pass from here. Because when we talk about legacy, legacy is when you get to watch someone go from their fetal to their adult human interactive stage. And then in that human body and phase and vector, they get to become this, we say light, this illumination that everyone remembers. Because when you hear someone talk about people they love and artists from the past that they love, they light up themselves. Because they're not thinking about that person. They're thinking about what that person at that time represented for them. Strength, confidence, whatever, right? And that's when we say, don't dim your light, because you don't know who needs it. Because at the end of the day, we might not believe it's important, but it's really important to be a role model to yourself. That's how you become the light. Most people try to become role models for others, and that becomes the distortion, and that's when people can fall from grace because they're trying to be something that they're not, and that's not the reality of it. So that's why I say, don't try to overly sensualize yourself if that's not who you are. If you know that, because real sensuality, I told you, it's not about how you present it, it's how you represent it, right? Presentation's beautiful, but how are you selling it? Because representation to me is how you sell it. Are you wearing it correctly? Are you giving me the attitude, the face, the look, right? Do you know? That's what I mean by it. There's some people where they know how to just put on the uniform and stand there and take the picture, but you turn the camera on and they don't know what they're doing. Still shot looks great. Camera on, it's like, ooh. So at the end of the day, it's okay to be free within yourself. That's the one of the parts where people, you meet the ones who are stick in the muds and like they don't release that energy of allowing themselves to remember who they were or what they wanted to be. There is nothing wrong with fantasy. There's nothing wrong with going into those worlds, but it's about balance of the human and the spiritual world. So you have to know how to remember, like, yeah, it's okay to be wild for this period of time, but at some point it's about self-preservation and saying, okay, the body can only handle so much. Only so much can go into it. Skin has elasticity. It does not stay that way unless you exercise it that way, and you can figure out what I mean by that. So just make sure at some point, like she said, Miss, I forgot her name, but she was like, you go suck and lick as much as you can. And then you have somebody that you can also talk to and be with. And if that's yourself, so be it. But just let yourself be wild, be free, do whatever you want. Just don't overdo it. I hope that one makes sense. Love ya.